Hey guys, it's Monday, October 29th, if I remember right. Remind me to start putting the date down. So here's the deal. I didn't think I'd be doing a nightly review today because I thought I'd be without power. It's around 1:15 p.m. Eastern time right now, and the main thrust of Hurricane Sandy is not going to be coming through for another few hours, though it's getting dicey outside. Luckily for me, picture that I am about 20 miles due west of the southern tip of Manhattan. And the main winds are going to be hopefully south of where I am, but I expect to lose power. And in situations such as this, we are generally down for anywhere from 3 days to a week, using last year's Halloween snowstorm as a guide. So I thought I would rush through something, some material for you. And it takes me, just so you understand the procedure, about 60 to 75 minutes to process the videos, a three-step process, and the last two are through YouTube. You have to digitize it and download it and process it. And I'm wearing pink because everybody else is wearing pink in the month of October, it being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I'm doing my bit there. I also have to say, back to Hurricane Sandy, that the European model, as you now know, nailed this thing about a week ago. So it's too bad we can't use the European computer model on the European economy and replace how the computer in Europe, replace all the bureaucrats that continue to muck things up there. So as you are well aware, U.S. equity markets were closed today, and there's still, excuse me, still no word that I can see. Oh, here we are. U.S. stock markets have agreed to close Tuesday. Bond markets as well. So there's your answer. It's a good thing the markets were closed today, because the futures, which did trade until I guess 9:15, were indicating a fairly decent drop in U.S. stocks, partly because of Sandy, but also because of Spain, where Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy refuses to ask for a bailout, while the Spanish economy at the same time continues to worsen. As a matter of fact, retail sales in Spain for the month of September were announced today, and they fell 11% from a year ago. That is a rather significant drop. And it's clear, as I've been writing in my Week in Review column, that the drop in the Spanish 10-year yield from 7.75% back on July 25th to about 5.6% is totally unwarranted unless Rajoy applies for the bailout. Once he gets the bailout, then the European Central Bank goes into their full bond buying mode and will continue to pressure interest rates to keep them lower through their bond buying plan. But if he doesn't apply for the bailout, the ECB is not going to buy Spanish bonds, and the rate will just go right back up. The yield will go back up. Back to the U.S. So far, 275 of 500 S&P blue chips have reported third quarter results. Only 36% of companies have reported better than expected revenue, well below the 56% that usually do, according to John Butters of FactSet. Revenue so far is coming in 1% below year-ago levels, while earnings are about 1% higher than a year ago. The big issue to focus on over the coming weeks is Japan and Japanese Prime Minister Noda, whose approval rating is plummeting, faces an early election, but he can technically wait until August to call one. However, Japan faces their own fiscal cliff just like the US does, and if Japan does not, if the parliament does not sign legislation to finance their mammoth budget deficits, Japan will run out of money by the end of November. So Noda's ruling party is down to a 2-seat majority, and the opposition is trying to force him to call an election far earlier than next August, and thus they refuse to sign any budget legislation. So this is a huge issue, and if by the end of November legislation has not been signed in Japan, then they have their own draconian spending cuts, or again, their own fiscal cliff that will push Japan right back into recession. Honda Motor Company, today announced that they were cutting their full-year profit and sales forecast due to the plummeting business in China, and that's a result of the territorial dispute between China and Japan in the East China Sea. Those islands called the Senkaku by Japan and the Diaoyu by China. Bunch of rocks. They could go to war over it. Unbelievable. Honda's sales in China fell 41% in September compared with the same month a year earlier. Toyotas were down 49% in China in September. So Honda is reducing their profit forecast for the year ending next March by 20% as a result. Not the best news for Microsoft as they introduce Windows 8. A phone survey of 1,200 adults by the Associated Press and GfK found that 52% hadn't even heard of Windows 8 leading up to Friday's release of the new software. 61% had little or no interest in buying a new laptop or desktop computer running on Windows 8, according to the poll. And only about a third of the people who've heard about the new system believe it will be an improvement. So that's kind of interesting. Despite the growing popularity of smartphones, according to this piece in USA Today, Microsoft remains deeply entrenched in people's lives. However, the poll did find that 80% of respondents with personal computers in their homes relied on earlier versions of Windows versus only 12% that operate on Apple's Mac system. The television networks are getting killed this fall season. CBS, along the ratings leader, is down 11% in total viewers during the first 4 weeks of the season. Fox is down 25%. ABC's primetime lineup is down 8%. NBC's is up 12%, but of course NBC has been in the basement for years and years. The big reason is, potentially big reason, are the presidential debates, and I think a bigger reason, certainly in terms of Thursday, is the NFL Network's Thursday night football games are now fairly well entrenched. I did also see from a Wall Street Journal piece that MTV's viewership declined 32% for the 4 weeks through October 21st. And I bring this up because I don't know if you saw one of I never watch MTV, but I saw an interview Obama gave with MTV last week, and their VJ is sitting in the Oval Office with, I don't know what you call those crochet hats that bind up your hair, and in jeans. He's there in the Oval Office with the President of the United States. Show some freaking respect. Switching gears to Syria, what a mess that has been. The number of refugees is expected to double from 350,000 to 700,000 over the coming weeks. And what's significant about this, aside from a humanitarian disaster, is that winter is coming, and in a lot of the spots where these refugees are accumulating in their camps, you have freezing or below freezing temperatures at night. And this is a total disaster that was so preventable by the Obama administration, just working with the Turks well over a year ago, before the uprising got going in full. And so much for the Eid holiday truce in Syria, broken by both sides. 100 people alone were killed last Saturday across the country. Interesting poll in Israel, as noted in the Jerusalem Post. Israeli Jews prefer Republican candidate Mitt Romney over Barack Obama by an almost 3-to-1 margin. This is according to a Peace Index poll conducted by the Israel Democracy Institute and Tel Aviv University. That's the exact opposite of where American Jews stand, who favor Obama over Romney by about a 3-to-1 margin. So that's very interesting. Among Israeli Arabs, the numbers were reversed, with 45% opting for Obama and 15% for Romney. That is no surprise to yours truly. Very, very interesting parliamentary election in Ukraine that is going to play out. It was on Sunday, but it's going to play out over the coming days and potentially weeks. It's very complicated in that you're voting for 450 members of parliament, but half of them are on party list and the other half are listed individually. Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, who's a bad guy, generally pro-Russian, has already claimed victory, but he needs his coalition partner, the communists, to do well. Anyway, I won't get into the exact percentages between exit polls and the first initial count of the ballots as they come in. But what's interesting is the number 2 party will most likely be that of Yulia Tymoshenko, the former prime minister, who is serving a 7-year sentence for abuse of power, a court case that totally outraged the West. And then you have boxing champion, heavyweight champ, Vitaly Klitschko has started a new anti-corruption party called UDAR, and they appear to be taking 12 to 15%. Anyways, it's going to be very, very fascinating to see how that all plays out, because Klitschko wants a pro-West, pro-Europe Ukraine, and Yanukovych, again, is generally pro-East. Yanukovych tried to buy off the public sector right before the election by offering salary increases and increases in the public sector workers' pensions, which of course only exacerbates their gigantic budget deficit of some $2 billion, which for Ukraine is significant. Mikhail Prokhorov, the billionaire owner of the Brooklyn Nets basketball team, announced that he is quitting business to enter politics full-time in his native Russia. Wants to form a third party, a third power, called Civic platform, basically splitting the uprights between the Kremlin and the opposition. I can't stand the Kremlin. I'm not a big fan of the opposition in Russia either. And Prokhorov offers a interesting choice. The lights just flickered, so I need to wrap this up. But anyway, Prokhorov is worth about $13 billion according to Forbes, and he said he's going to spend a fair amount of it on establishing his new party there. You might recall that back in March he ran for president in Russia, finished third, but only with 8% behind Putin's 64%. And communist leader Zhuganov, who was second with 17%. The Des Moines Register endorsed Mitt Romney, the first Republican that for president that they have so endorsed since 1972 and Richard Nixon. I'm laughing because last week I was watching Bill O'Reilly. He's like, oh, of course the Des Moines Register is they're going to pick Obama. No, you got it wrong, Bill. Got that one wrong. In Ohio, recall in one of my videos last week, I talked about the fact that this is going to be potentially a freaking disaster, or as they are calling it, the nightmare scenario. We go to the polls November 6th, but Ohio has this crazy provisional ballot situation between absentee and then provisional, and you can't start counting provisionals for about 10 days. And if it comes down to Ohio's 18 electoral votes, as it could very easily do, we won't know November 6th or 7th who the next president is. Isn't that interesting? There are two polls in Ohio that have come out recently. The Ohio Newspaper Association and the Cincinnati Enquirer together had a poll showing Romney and Obama tied at 49. A public policy polling survey, which is generally considered a Democratic-leaning poll operation, has Obama up 51-47. Finally, Malala, the 15-year-old we're learning, she was 14 and just turned 15, or we're guessing we're all going to call her 15, who was the victim of the assassination attempt by the Taliban and is recovering very well in Britain. Her father visited her the other day in hospital in Britain, in London, and said the following: "When she fell, Pakistan stood and the world rose." Mr. Yousafzai, apologies, told a press conference in Birmingham, where his daughter is being treated. This is a turning point in Pakistan. For the first time, all political parties, Urdus, Christians, Sikhs, all religions prayed for my daughter. He also said, she is not just my daughter, she is everybody's daughter. An attacker who could be called the agent of Satan, he attacked, but after that I found angels on my side everywhere, all around me. I'm thankful to all the people all over the world. They condemned the attack and prayed for my daughter. And all of us should pray for Malala as well, and give her the strength and courage to go back to Pakistan and continue to lead her movement to allow girls to go to school like every other girl in the world should be allowed to do. That's all for today. I have no idea if I'm going to lose power, and when I do, when I'll be back. But check the site for updates, and as always, pray for the men and women of our armed forces. I'm Brian Trumbore. Thank you.